Hello, everyone, and welcome to this new episode of Women Leading Boldly. I am absolutely thrilled today to welcome Mindi Huebner. She is a mindset and identity expert who helps high-achieving women dismantle the outdated identities that we've been conditioned to carry and redefine success on their own terms. Her work focuses on transforming how women see themselves by addressing subconscious beliefs about achievement-based value, success, and identity. And it enables them to show up authentically and in their personal and in professional lives. And I'm so excited because this was also a very personal topic for me and my journey. And so today we are going to be talking about the power of identity, subconscious beliefs. So Mindi, welcome and thank you for being here.
I am so excited. When you were reading that too, I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't wait to dive in. Like, I'm so obsessed.
So tell us, why did you want to participate? Let's start there.
Yeah.
What
Yes.
attracted you to participate in a summit of women leading boldly?
Yeah, every woman deserves a champion. They deserve someone to hold that space, to believe in them while their belief catches up, while they dismantle those identities. I am truly obsessed with reminding women and or showing some for the first time how powerful they are and guiding them to embody that truly authentic, I say 24 karat version of themselves.
Okay. I love it because I think that, and we'll dive into it, but people, I think just having somebody to hold that space and believe in you is so powerful, and we all deserve that gift. Mm-hmm. So tell me a little bit about how you started this work and why the work is so important to you.
Short version of how I started this work. I was 17 years in a direct sales career, hustling. Realized that I believed rest was lazy. That came 17 years later. So I was in the identity of the woman who needed to achieve to prove my value and my worth without knowing that this was who I was being. Because that's what identity is. It is our way of being, and it is our repeated way of being, and it is our way of being in relationship to something. So in order to be worthy and valuable, high achiever, it was necessary to continue to achieve. A gifted and talented kid, and, A's, straight A's, like type A, like overachiever. And this is just normal, quote unquote, right? No, not sustainable. Even though I did it for 17 years, it was unsustainable. It was this constant cycle of exhaustion and then feeling guilty for resting. And what I know now is, again, I was in an identity that was predictable and was my subconscious allowing me to take the path of least effort, even though it was the most effort, because I already knew how to be her. I already knew how to show up as her. I knew how she felt. I knew what she thought. I knew what she did. And she succeeded at all costs, right? Even though that business, specifically that business, was to have freedom in my calendar, I found myself saying yes to more business appointments and no to family stuff because of the success chasing, the achievement need in order to, right, that external validation. I know I'm not alone in that. And while I have cracked the code and really shed so many of those layers, those things still they like to just poke their little head up and remind me I'm a human, right? And that's why the work is so important, because I figured out we cannot outperform our subconscious identity. So let's get in alignment with our subconscious identity. And then we're not performing at all. Then we're authentically showing up with way more ease and way more joy.
So tell us, let's start off maybe with what are the problems when, and you've already elaborated on some of them, but what are the problems when there's misalignment with that subconscious?
Well, we tend to, especially as high achievers, we've got a lot figured out. We're successful, right? Like we've figured out a lot of things. It's those smaller things that can really drag us down, because not only can we not outperform our subconscious identity, we can't out-hustle our limiting beliefs. So we get in this self-sabotaging cycle. And while that word really triggers some people, let's talk about the habits of self-sabotage that show us we're out of alignment. Those habits look like overthinking, just that constant spinning on, should I do this? Should I do that? Is this the right thing? Is this not the right thing? They look like overworking. So that's my personal self-sabotage of choice was, well, if I just work harder, I'll just be more then, won't I? I'll just be more valuable. So I'll just work harder. I'll work more. And the mother that births all symptoms of self-sabotage, negative self-talk. That trash talking ourselves is think of it as like a layer of soil. And then all those other symptoms of self-sabotage grow up from it. Because that's the root, right? Like saying we're not enough, so we need to overwork. We don't really know the right answer, so we need to overthink. Everything comes from there. And those are just a couple: self-criticism, indecision, perfectionism is in there, needing consistent internal validation. There's so many symptoms of self-sabotage. And ultimately, knowing that you're out of alignment feels like I say I want this thing, I want this result, and yet I keep going around the same mountain. Okay, what's the mountain? That's how we know we're out of alignment.
Okay. You just fully described me. Not now, but for, my 25-year career. Yeah, that perfectionism. And I worked my way up the corporate ladder until that CEO position. And I think misalignment for me also, like, I guess you're in it. It's like, that analogy of the frog in the water. It's like when you're
boiling
in
water,
it,
they turn it up just a little, you don't recognize it.
You don't know it. You don't recognize it that you're in it. And unless you put the frog in the boiling water and then it jumps out.
Exactly.
So, like, how do people recognize that misalignment? Or when does awareness to what is going on happen?
This is a decision to be aware. And like you said about the frog in the water, so that was me 17 years in the water, and my division closed one day. And all of a sudden I wasn't in the water and I had this epiphany, like, wow, I was doing what for how long? And it seemed normal. And it wasn't for me, right? Like normal is all relative to, right? Sustainable, aligned, all those things. So how do we recognize? Well, the first thing that we recognize is, this is what I want, but something's off. Like, couldn't this feel a little more juicy? Couldn't this feel a little better? Couldn't it feel a little more expansive? And here, let's look at this for just a second. When we talk about identity, we're talking about many things. So one identity that we can recognize, or one way to recognize identity, if your identity is a box that is restrictive, it's time to look at that. It's time to expand the identity. So a really great example, I am a runner. I didn't start running till I was 39 years old, and I got injured in my mid-20s, and all of a sudden I couldn't run. And I literally had a crisis. Who am I if I'm not a runner? I have so much validation in being a runner. It means so many things to me, right? This title, I am a runner. And it was like, oh. If you come to that place that you are so tied up in your identity in that way that all of a sudden, if it wasn't there, you don't know who you would be. This is a beautiful moment to ask yourself, what does it actually mean to me? Like, why am I so tied to this identity? And how can I expand it? Because at that moment, that identity was restricting me. It was stopping my brain, which deletes, distorts, and generalizes based on my beliefs, and as do all of our brains. So deletes, distorts, and generalizes based on our beliefs. So if my belief is a runner and I'm injured, my brain is like short-circuiting. Well, then who are you? Well, right? Because it's only showing me based on the filter of my beliefs. And that's honestly because so much data comes at us all day long that we have to have filtering systems so our little heads don't explode. The other filter that's at play is our RAS, our reticular activating system, which brings us what we anticipate and expect in very basic terms. Really, like, I don't want to say I'm dumbing that down. I'm just giving that a very basic so that that's another filtering system. So I was anticipating and expecting to be a runner, and therefore when I wasn't finding solutions. So if you're feeling those types of squeezes, Then you get to go, okay, well, what does it mean? So for me, I got to the point of, I kept asking myself why, and this is my favorite time to ask why, in the direction of my hopes and dreams and schemes, right? Like, if this is so important to me, why? So that I get real clear. Well, ultimately, I got to the place of being a runner. I'm actually a woman who loves to move her body. It makes me feel strong. I like to sweat. I like to push myself. I like being out in nature. So I found all these things that I really loved about it. And while I could participate in running and be a runner, I was actually a woman who liked to move her body, and running was one of the ways that I could check that box for me and fill that need. All of a sudden, my identity expanded, my brain started filtering in a different way, and my RAS was bringing me what I anticipated and expected, which was all kinds of ways to be that woman, not just one way. That's a game changer.
But is it always or often a result of an external event? Because in your example here, you got injured, you lost your job. Is it usually, kicked off or I can't think of the word, but set off by an external event? Not always.
Not always. I would say often, though, because again, if you're a high achiever, something about you is you're going to the next thing and to the next thing. And so you're probably results outcome driven. Part of my work is reminding you that the magic is actually who you are, not what you achieve, because who you are is the woman who can achieve anything she wants when she's in alignment. Right. And the outcomes are they're beautiful milestones. They're little like boop celebrations. They are not the end all be all. So I would love to share just really quickly. I had a client who wanted to do $1 million in a year. And she said, but I can't, because in order to have $1 million a year business, I have to give up one of my core values, which is working 20 hours a week. She had decided without giving it much thought or really diving into it, because other 7-figure entrepreneurs were working their tails off and showing up in ways that she didn't want, that was the only way it could happen. Her brain just helped her out, didn't want to give her any decision fatigue, and said, well, that's how you have to do it. So unless you want that to be your version of success, then you can't have it. We had one session together. So it wasn't like she had this outward thing, right? She just had a moment of, I want this, but I can't have it. Boom. One session, within 3 months, $1 million, because she knew she didn't have to give up what she wanted.
And so when you work with somebody, how do you help them in that transformation? Like, are there steps? Are there actions is there a process? Like, tell us a little bit about how you work with clients, because it's a topic that absolutely fascinates me, because I'm also in my 50s and I have, in the past year, completely changed my identity. And I've done it several times in my life. And so it fascinates me to know, like, I did it, but is there a process and was there an easier way? So I'm just curious how you work with clients and how you guide them through that process.
Yes. So I would love to say as well, identity has several definitions. Another definition of identity is a role with a goal. So we're always winning the game we're playing, no matter what identity we're in. So if we're finding ourselves in the identity of someone feeling overwhelmed or angry, or you insert the emotion here, my first, this is what I do with clients. This is not a bad thing. Every identity is a role with a goal. What is angry Mindi telling you? What does she have to offer you? What is it that you have decided that you get to do or think or be or have or not do or not think or not be or not have when you are insert emotion, angry version of you? Because emotions and being emotionally intelligent in a way of being able to identify the emotions and understand that they are indicators and directional things, like turn signals, they're directional. They're not bad. Emotions aren't a bad thing. And when you can lean into them, that's when you can release the emotional charge around who you get to be in order to take the action that you want to take. So we have those conversations. a lot. I will be totally honest. One of my superpowers is actually hearing your limiting beliefs when you talk to me. Like they just light up and I go, oh, it's really interesting. I heard you say this. What does that mean? What have you made this mean? The moment awareness comes in this process, the mindset begins to shift. The neurons that fire together, wire together, right? The new neural pathways start to create. We start to dismantle that old protection because that is also what happens. All of our limiting beliefs masquerading as protections to keep us in the known. Because the known is predictable. No matter how painful it is, it's predictable. You know how to be that version of you. So you said you have changed your identity, right? And here's what I will say about identity work as well. This is not becoming a different version of ourselves. In my opinion, identity work is actually stripping away all the things that are keeping us from our actual authentic self. We just keep coming home to us. We're not trying to be someone we're not. We're actually like releasing. I just constantly have this version of shedding this vision to come back to full alignment with our authentic self. And so there's lots of awareness questions that happen. Also, mindset is our relationship with something. So we have a mindset around finances. We have a mindset around money. We have a mindset around revenue. Like those three things specifically, we think differently, right? We have a mindset around food. We have a mindset around our body. We have a mindset, right, around our business. And so it's our relationship with. So mindset and identity, they're like sisters that they never really go anywhere without each other. Because they're this infinity loop that leads into each other. So we're either discussing the mindset, like what is your relationship with this? What have you decided this means? And what if it could mean something different? Like what if that is not the only way? And then identity, who are you being in relation to this thing that you say you want? And who are you not being? And so, okay, when we look at the aligned action that we're not willing to take, why aren't we willing to take it? Well, because this thing is either out of alignment with who we want to be, or we've decided that we have to give something up in order to be her. So we get to come back to, I like to say, what are the gains and what are the losses? Like, what have we decided the gains and the losses are? And let's dive into those. Are they truly losses? Are they truly gains?
And I think the identity work that I've done, and I would love your opinion, is also identifying who we want to be. I want to be an entrepreneur, or I want to get that promotion in the C-suite, or I want to, found, I don't know, a nonprofit organization. Do you find that taking action can help with the mindset work? Even if the mindset is not there yet, does taking action like bring along the mindset, or do you have to have the mindset piece before you take action? I don't know if it's a chicken and the egg question.
It's practice. You are growing into, right? You're like evolving into the person who has, for lack of a better word, we can stair step the mindset, right? So if we're talking about, I love to use alchemized affirmations. If I want to, I'm the woman who runs a nonprofit. Well, if you're not her yet, your body's like, no, you're not. Like, what are you talking about, right? So instead, I'm the woman who is creating a plan to open a nonprofit. Now, all of a sudden, we're like, oh, am I? I am that woman. I could be that. I am capable of being the woman who creates a plan to open a nonprofit. All of a sudden now, our relationship with that is shifting because we're opening up possibility. We're not saying that's only this way. Like, I have to be her right this second. We get to say, oh, I'm becoming her. Then we pull in the magic of going, okay, but if I was her, what would I be doing? And so there's your chicken or the egg. If I was her, how would she be spending her time? What kind of questions would she be asking about nonprofits? Because I can do that now. I can be, do, have, right? I can embody parts of her right this second. So now here we are back at that infinity loop of mindset and identity. Now I am shifting the mindset and I'm expanding my identity to include I could be the woman who founds a nonprofit.
Yeah. And so the be, do, have is it something that do you find is difficult for people? Is it something that they easily understand? Like, I think also, for example, in weight loss, something that a lot of people can identify with. It's the same thing. It's being that person who takes care of your body, who fuels it correctly, who, thinks about their nutrition or movement. So is that be, do, have, do people find it difficult, or is it something they get relatively quickly?
The concept, most people get pretty quickly. Operating in the concept depends on how many limiting beliefs you have around what you deserve and what you're worthy of. Because that, especially because you brought up weight loss, health, whatever that piece is. Talk about identity. There's also a loss of identity. So I have certifications in health coaching. I have health coached, and I still continue I coach the human. And so even though she's a highly successful businesswoman, sometimes we're health coaching, right? Because this woman is who runs the business. So one of the things that happens in the identity shift, in the be, do, have, in those things is, well, who will I be if I'm not the girl who always XYZs, right? Who will I be if I'm not the, curvy, funny friend, whatever because you are tied to your identity. It is predictable. You do know how to be her. And so there will be resistance in unbecoming that version, in shedding some of the things that are no longer serving you in order to get back to that more aligned version of you. And so here we are back with the stair stepping of be, do, have. So I'm a millionaire. Okay, so how do I be, do, have being a millionaire? Well, I'm not going to spend like a millionaire, because that's going to defeat the purpose, right? Although my guess is millionaires don't spend like non-millionaires. I'm working on being a millionaire. So, so what could I do? What are the ways of being that I can show up now in order to embody the millionaire version of me? Well, how am I spending my time? How am I talking to myself?
Yeah.
Right? How am I taking care of my money? Am I romancing my money now? Does money want to hang out with me? Because in order to be a millionaire, money really wants to hang out with me. So does it want to hang out with me now? Right? Have I created a space where money's like, oh, I like it there. Let's go. Right? Seriously.
Okay. The one of the ways that I also like to look at it is to find the labels. And I would like your opinion. But an identity, a lot of times it's simply because we have a label. And I'll just give an example. I had a client once. She labeled herself as a hot mess. And so that was totally her identity.
Yeah.
And when you're telling yourself that every single day, I'm unorganized, I'm a hot mess, I'm always late, it just becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy.
You win. You're always winning the game you're playing. You're always winning the game you're playing. Yes. Here's what happens. We think a thought over and over again. We'll use this example. I am a hot mess. Okay. That thought becomes a belief. It literally, I am. We have now claimed it as part of our identity. The words we say after I am, some of the most powerful words in the universe. So we think a thought, it becomes an I am. Now, not only is this a belief, part of our filtering system. Remember, delete, distort, and generalize based on our beliefs. So we can't even see the places where we're organized or showing up on time because our brain is swiping those out, not to confuse us, because it wants us to win. Then we create habits to prove it to ourselves. This is how powerful we are, is that we do that. So I love that you said the hot mess, because here's the truth. We all experience feeling like a hot mess on occasion. Most, not all. Okay. Most of us have experienced feeling pretty hot, messy right now. Does this make me a hot mess? Does this make me in my identity a hot mess? No, it doesn't. Labels are the easy way out too, right? They're a very easy way for us to go, that's me. They take some of the discernment out, some of the inner, deeper, right? Sometimes it's just easier.
Yeah.
And we just call something.
Yeah. Okay. No, I think it's, I think people, however, and I love that you said a thought becomes a belief, because people just, I find, don't recognize it. And that is the power of having a coach. So I'm also putting a plug in here for coaching, because people don't see it. And that I think is the power of coaching. So maybe give us an example of when you work with a client, what would when they come to you, what kind of problem would they bring to you, and how, and you've talked a little bit about the process, but how would they articulate their difficulty?
Sure. So I just had a call with a client yesterday, and she said, I'm noticing this pattern. Like, I will say that clients that work with me, that hands down have a high level of awareness. Because they can't not have a high level of awareness. Because first, I'm the mirror. And I'm like, look at this. This is what you said. Here's how you're showing that. So they're getting that immediately. So their level of awareness through our coaching is just through the roof. That's the first step, is that level of awareness in order to make a change. Is having the awareness that it's even there. So they'll come and say, I'm noticing this pattern. And I'll say, okay, great. Like, tell me the pattern that you're noticing. And I'll say, all right, well, so right before you kicked in the pattern, like, who were you being? What were you thinking? What was happening? Did you need a Snickers? Are you hydrated? Like, we show up in patterns out of habit. Again, our subconscious takes the path of least effort. And least effort is just turning on the habit. It has no idea whether the habit serves us or not, whether it's empowered, disempowered. It has no idea. It just goes, oh, here's the easy button, and it hits it. And so we get to become more aware. Like, that is part of the work. Also, the heightened awareness of, how can I rewire this right now? And I always start with really simple word swaps for clients all the time. When a client comes to me, I should have done this, I should have done that, and they're shaming, guilting, shoulding all over themselves. I say, okay, let's just take a pause. What if we said instead, from now on, in the future, next time? What if we bless and release the should version of ourselves, who she's not getting anywhere by dumping on herself? Like, nothing will change. If instead we allow some expansion in this and say, from now on, when XYZ happens, or when I feel this, I can choose to, right? I have the ability to, in the future, when this happens, or next time, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take a beat. I'm going to say, I'll get back to you. So that way we're future casting, right? We're telling past self, like, we got it now, right? Like, blessing and releasing that past version, and current us knows we can count on future us, because we are already, like, we're putting it into the future. Next time, this is how I get to show up. Like, I get to choose. It's not gonna choose me. And that's one of the really powerful ways that we instantly reframe. We do lots of reframing on calls. And so I'm overworking, I'm noticing a pattern, I'm criticizing myself over and over again. I'm saying I want this, but here's what I'm doing. Ultimately, it's like fear. Like, that's where all those habits and beliefs and all of that, they're rooted in fear. Fear of success, fear of failure, fear of judgment, right? Fear of not being enough.
Yeah. Okay. Can you repeat? There were 3 things that you had said. It was about from now on. How did you replace the shoulds?
Should, so we can replace should with from now on.
Yeah.
In the future and next time.
Gosh, so good.
And you're instantly rewiring, right? You're already starting to rewire your brain right now. You're already creating new neural pathways. And every time you think that, those are firing and wiring together. Your RAS is bringing you what you anticipate and expect. And that's to be the woman who says from now on, in the future and next time. Because man, does she have possibility, right? She has expansion. She doesn't have restriction. She doesn't have should. I think the other reason that should really triggers me, like, I immediately see someone like wagging their finger. You should do this. You need to do that. Don't tell me what to do.
Yeah.
I am a rebel.
Yeah.
Do not tell me what to do.
Okay.
Let me at least think it's my own idea.
No, it is. It's such a harmful word. Should. It's
shame. It's a could with shame smeared on it.
Yeah,
that's it. We're shaming someone, ourselves mostly.
Yeah. Okay. Oh my gosh, this is I could go on for hours, because so let me just tell a little bit about my story and how I hadn't planned on doing this at all, But I just want to put it out there that changing your identity is 100% possible. And I'll just take an example that I think also people can relate to. I was an emotional eater. So for years, I was never overweight, but I was an emotional eater. And doing the identity work of not labeling myself as an emotional eater, but labeling myself as somebody who knows how to take care of herself, somebody who wants to be healthy, somebody who loves to move her body, just finding ways to describe who I wanted to be. And I do want to say, it's something I worked on every single day for a long time. So I think some of the identity shifts, I've had others that were much quicker. That one, which, I struggled with for a very long time, took a little longer. But it's for me, and I would love to know, and we can kind of maybe conclude on this, it's something I did every single day and worked on new beliefs every single day. Is there some kind of habit do you suggest something like that? Do you have something else that you suggest? Like, is there I don't know, hack is not the right word because it's very deep work that we're talking about.
It's deep work, yes.
But I don't know. Do you have, what do you think?
So there's I think a lot. There's a lot in there. So the first piece that I want to say is when we are so in the habit of being someone, an emotional eater, in this thing that we've labeled ourselves, there are gains. Again, every identity is a role with a goal. So there are gains in being this person. There are secondary gains in being this person. And it's vital to ask ourselves, what would I have to give up in order to release this version of me, in order to bless and release this protection? Because emotional eating, Karen, that was a protection, quote unquote. Again, right? Like protecting you from failure, protecting you from whatever it was. This is all of us. And so getting really clear on what we believe are the gains and the losses, and who do I have to give up? So that's one piece. Now, again, it's a habit. We're in the habit of being ourselves. And so when we're working to dismantle that habit and create a new habit, a new way of being, the habit's going to come up and you're going to find yourself in the habit. And instead of beating yourself up and saying, I should, of course, we now know we have 3 alternatives to saying should. The other piece is acknowledge it. This is not a place where we stuff it down and pretend I'm not being her. No. We want to say, willpower is never going to get you where you want to go. It will give you some short success. You can't out willpower yourself either. So instead of trying to willpower it away, thinking, be her, don't be her, be her, don't be her. First of all, your brain doesn't hear don't. So as you're saying, be the emotional leader, don't be the emotional leader, your brain's not hearing don't. It's saying, yeah, be her. I'm going to invite you not to get into this habit battle, like the angel and the devil on your shoulder. Instead, recognize I'm thinking like her and I'm showing up in ways that is her because this is a habit. Who do I want to be instead? Where can I move my attention right now? I call this the pink elephant habit mantra. I use this with my clients all the time because if I said to you, Karen, whatever you do, don't think of a pink elephant. Don't think of a pink elephant. Okay. And you didn't hear the don't because your brain got rid of the don't and you thought of a pink elephant. And everyone listening, 99% thought of a pink elephant. So based on that, this is why we don't fight it. We go, oh, I see you, pink elephant. We broke up. Right? Like we blessed and released. I appreciate you. And I'm moving my attention to. Now, the key in that is knowing that old you is going to show up, this old version of you, this protection. So what will you want to move your attention to? You'll want to move it to some proof that you are becoming this other version of you. And that proof could be a picture. That proof could be the calendar where you've put X's on all the days that you've walked. That could be whatever that is for you, like an anchor to anchor you back into this new version of you, this more aligned version of you. So I love that tool too, because it is a practice. It is a daily practice. And then what happens is we get to to quote James Clear, cast votes more often than not towards the version of ourselves, right? The more aligned version of ourselves, the favorite version of ourselves. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Was that helpful?
Powerful.
Okay,
So
good.
powerful. Okay. Is there anything that we haven't covered today that you feel we should, or that you would like to conclude with? And then also tell us, for anybody who wants to get in contact with you and work with you, where can we find you?
Yes. So what I would like to remind everyone, the one question that changes everything, and technically it's two, who am I being and who do I want to be? And this litmus test for yourself, without shame, without guilt, this is a question that we ask through the lens of curiosity. We're being a detective to ourselves. Who am I being? Like, these feelings that I'm experiencing right now, what are they telling me? Who am I being? Who do I want to be? The beauty is we might not be able to switch to who I want to be right this second. We can go, okay, well, I want to be this version of me, and it's really hard right now. I need a nap, or I need to walk away, or what do I need for myself? How can I fuel myself in order to move more towards that? So we get to recognize that too, that this is not, for most identities, like you said, and for most shifts, there's some practice in it. And the practice might be shorter time for, certain things, especially if you really have come to the place of, I am over this. Like, when the pain of the known is greater than the pain of the unknown, we'll switch. We'll go a lot quicker in that direction. Or the frog in the, I love that you brought up that analogy, because it just it's so right. It's so true. So all of that to say, when you want to get more clarity about, well, who am I being and who do I want to be and how do I even figure out who I want to be and what identity is going to serve me when I'm in alignment, I have created a resource. It's a free private podcast, bingeable podcast, to walk you through those steps and really get you into absolute clarity. It gives you some tools and some techniques. It's called Unlock Your 24-Karat Success. And you can find it at mindihuebner.com/podcast.
Great. Mindi, thank you so much. One of my favorite topics ever. And of course, I will link all of that to the show notes.
Excellent.
So thank you again for being here, and a fascinating conversation.
It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.